second nature today. There we are. We are live. I always do that. I start talking just like 2 seconds before the go live thing. Okay, good evening, everybody. I hope you are well this evening. Let me know tonight if you are watching live and say hi. Let me know if you're watching on replay and still say hi and hashtag replay it. If you haven't already accepted StreamYard, yes, we might have cats' bums with us tonight and all sorts of interesting things and children, but that's okay.
We have Eli still awake. There's the little moon still awake.
And dogs could bark and anything could happen, but that's the fun of lives. It couldn't be any worse than the one I did in Heather's group earlier, Heather Rose's group, where my tech wouldn't work.
Oh, no.
I couldn't get my presentation up. So yeah, these things happen. Lives are all about creating a bit of reality, aren't they? Let's keep it real. I'm sucking a soother because I've got a sore throat, because this is my fourth live of the day and I've still got one to go. So please be kind to me this evening, guys, with your comments. So it's lovely to be here. For those of you that don't know me, that may be watching on one of the platforms and you've just come across me, I am Mandy Nicholson and I am the Creative Genius Consultant. I'm an artist, I'm an author. I am a creative retreat owner and I help creative women to launch, grow and scale their businesses and make more money. I'm in the middle of a 5-day challenge this week. It's a big week for me. I've been talking all day today. There's lots happening in my life. But hey, we're here as we are every Tuesday. And I've got something really exciting tonight. I quite often bring my clients on here to interview them. But tonight I've brought one of my clients just to talk to them about something amazing that they have just done. And I wanted to share that with you because I think it's always a great example of what we can do and what we should be doing to help in so many different ways and bring communities back together again. So I will start by saying the lovely Nixie Foster, can't speak tonight, is here with me. I'm going to let her introduce herself. So if you do that, Nixie, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So it's great to be here. I do apologise for the cat's bombs. I'm sure there's going to be a few. I am Nixie. I am a storyteller and a moon-cycle specialist. And I empower women through unlocking their voice. So the holistic storytelling traditions that we as women have lost in the modern patriarchal society.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. I love it so much. And that's why Nixie is here tonight, because we've been working together for several months now. And, you know, Nixie published her journal about 3 months ago, but last week published her first in a series of 8 children's books. So tonight I wanted to invite Nixie here to talk about the art of storytelling. And you've written and illustrated this book, haven't you?
I have it. We're going to be seeing it behind
Luna's
the cat.
Well, once Luna moves, maybe we can get that in front of the cat. So there are loads and loads of children's books out there. Tell us about yours, the background behind it, and the reason that you decided to write it.
One of my main reasons was that I can't find stories to tell my own son about our celebrations. About we follow the 8 pagan festivals of the year, so the 8 turns of the wheel, and they very often coincide with celebrations that other belief structures and have. So, for example, the Little Moon Samhain adventures, which we have. I do have a cat harassing me, but she's out the way now. She's back. Coincides with what most people know to be. Put flight mode on. I did.
Just lost you, Nixie, if you can hear me. This sometimes happens on a live particularly when cats are meandering around laptops. So that's fine. We can. I've talked my way through this before. I will talk my way through it again. I will just send a very quick message to Nixie and tell her that I've lost her and she needs to re-log in. Don't you love live? I love lives. Lives are not doing me a big favor today. I'm not having much luck with lives. How are you back? You back?
She put flight mode on when she stood on the keyboard.
That's the first time that's happened. Oh, now you're frozen again. It's worth watching just for the bloopers, isn't it? That's all I'm going to say about that. Is flight mode still on, Nixie? Because you're frozen. We had such a good. You're back again. You froze again.
Am I here? Am I?
Yeah, you're back.
I was like, I don't even know how to do that.
Anyway, cats aside, let's get back to this amazing book, because honestly, you've illustrated and written it. It's beautiful. Go back to telling us about these, the 8 turns of the wheel and how they coincide.
So this one is Samhain. So this here is one of those tricky words that you have to learn just how it's said. And it's Samhain. And that coincides with what most people will be either celebrating Halloween or All Saints Day, something along those lines, 31st of October to 1st of November. I couldn't find stories to read to Little Moon, my son, about our pagan celebrations. So I have always storytelling, reading, creating that narrative is a big part throughout our lives. So I decided that I was going to bring my dreams from when I was a very, very small girl of writing and drawing books for children into being, and created Little Moon's Samhain Adventure. And it follows how we celebrate the day, as well as bringing in the pagan cultures and characters from the pagan folklores, legends, and myths that we celebrate, interact with, that bring aspects to the story. And I didn't want it just to be this is what we do, this is how we do it. I wanted it to be something that would spark children's imaginations and lead them through pictures, through the illustrations, through the words, to begin to bring stories to life and interact with them, take parts of it out. So like you've got pumpkin carving, and you've got at the end I've included a recipe that you can always cook with your children. It's quite a simple recipe. It's soul cakes, and that is one of the things that has come all the way through from the very early pagan times, and then when it was a gift for the ancestors, and then it's come through into early and Christian belief structures, and it's now what we see as trick-or-treating. So I wanted to sort of show how stories transgress those belief structures, the ages, and are so important for building narratives, not only for ourselves as families, but also to give children that gift of reading and being able to find their own imaginations, their own stories, and their own voice.
So important. We were talking earlier about this, weren't we? That so many people, I mean, and I know lots of people that struggle to tell stories to their children. And it's very easy to sit and read a book verbatim, and not so easy to actually bring your child into that story and ask them about color and smell and sensory things to actually encourage them to become a part of the story. And you do this really well through the book, but also through your free resource that teaches people how to storytell. So talk about that.
So I have reading, which way do I need to? Reading Together, which has 5 key areas of bringing stories into your children's life, and not just books, because it's that spark of the story that sparks our own personal stories and begins our own narrative through our own life, and allows us to have that voice, but also to be sure in our voice.
Mm-hmm.
So it talks about visiting your library and how to create that as an experience and a joy, because a lot of people maybe have never visited a library. You know, a lot of libraries have closed over the years. It can quite often feel like it's just not an open place for them to go. So it kind of steps in, and it's about bringing reading to life. Reading aloud to your child isn't just about reading the words, it's about creating time together, getting a child to work out stories in their heads, which they love to do. Once that door opens, they're going to be telling you stories with their toys about their day, because children, especially very young, early years children, they only remember in that moment. They retell us their day
Mm-hmm.
through stories, through narrative. Whereas, you know, we can say, "What have you had for lunch?" And they'll be, "I don't know."
Mm-hmm.
But if they've got a story, a way of storytelling, so it could be, "Oh, we were talking about, and I ate my banana," and it's a way that their brains communicate much easier. So I've got about making reading active, so things that you could do. A great example of making reading active is the Going on a Bear Hunt book, and I've bring that aspect into to my stories.
Yeah.
So in Little Moon Samhain Adventure, you have the oak and the holly king, and it's like, how can you go? Can you go on a walk and find an oak tree and a holly tree? Um, and then just talking about books, what rather than just reading the words, what does the cover make you feel like? What does the picture make you feel like? What are the smells, emotions, things like that? So that is the Reading Together, the freebie, which will be leading on to storytelling workshops as well. There will be the option of that
So
coming
exciting.
soon.
I know, coming soon to this, but this interview, this talk tonight is why I work with creatives, because these ideas can be so hidden and so squished. There are so many creatives out there that have got these amazing ideas. They know how to do things that other people don't know how to do. And we are put into corners and put out of sight by society, who says we can't make something of this. So this is the first of 8 books that you were going to write, isn't
Yeah.
it, for children's books?
Yeah.
So you've got another one planned to launch in November time. And what's that one about?
That is Yule. So this is part of a series, and it's Little Moon's Adventures is the series, and then so you'll have Little Moon's Yule Adventure, and then there are 6 more to come after that. They may not be released in order of the Worlds, because I do have lots of other stuff that's going on as well, but there will be one for each turn of the wheel to complete the series of 8 in the end. I mean, I've already got people saying to me they want to know more about the characters in the books as well, so there's always a possibility of that in years to come.
Well, that's the beauty of it. And how does it feel for you now, as you know, Nixie, getting this out there to the world and beginning to talk about it? How does it feel?
It's really weird. It feels, I can't explain it. It feels like, sorry, the cat has jumped up from like how from right behind the sofa, which has about this much gap. Okay, so it feels like I'm coming home,
Right.
because it's taken me a long time to find my way back to to that soul, to peel back all those layers, because when I was a small girl, this is all I ever did. And I know I've told you the story about when we're clearing out mum and dad's house, which we've been doing really recently. I found a book that I had written and illustrated, not much older than, I must have been about 6, 7. It was really quite young, that my mum had kept. I mean, unfortunately, it's like all, it's not possible to keep it and read it, but she'd kept it all that time in a drawer. And I had always thought that it was something kind of, I was patted on the head a lot of the time growing up, going, of course you're going to be a writer. Of course you're going to change the world through your writing and through your books. What are you really going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And those layers of stories, and then the traumas of my life layered and layered upon me. Now, I went to art college, but I did a degree that had potential of, so I did textiles and fashion. So there was a career path off of that. It didn't do the truly what lit me up, my true light, the light that shines from my soul. And because I was afraid that wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't I shouldn't follow that path. It wasn't. And now coming back to it, it feels like I've come home. It feels like this is my essence. This is who I am. I am a storyteller, and a storyteller, not just of books, but of opening that energy space for women's voices to become freedom, because there is so many shoulds and coulds and musts layered upon us as women, as mothers, that ancient storytelling tradition of how we release the traumas, how we have safe spaces for our voices to be heard, and actually for our voices to be heard, because the good girl doesn't raise her voice. And yeah, so it just feels like I've come home.
That's so good. And so many stories are locked in drawers and in lofts and in different places. They're locked inside of us, in our hearts and souls. And I've had 3 separate conversations this week, apart from you, and it's only Tuesday, about women and how can they tell their stories. That in the 5-day challenge yesterday, we had somebody posting that they've got at least 10 books in them. Why are those books not written? They're not written because nobody believes in you that you can write them. And our stories should be told. They were always told. This is how we communicated through time. We communicated through stories, through fables, through, fairy stories, through tales. That's how things were passed on when we didn't have the written word and we didn't have all the other mediums that we have today. And it's not a time that we should be dumbing down the voices of women in particular, because we are, the child bearers, the trauma acceptors, the put to the siders. It's all very well having lots of books written by women about how to be get rich lucky bitch and how to be the entrepreneur, the go-getter. But what about those stories that involve children, that are about children, that are about community? Those are important too.
And that's that divine feminine energy, which which has been squashed, and we have entered that corrupt feminine energy, that place where so many of us are gathering layers of trauma because we don't know how to be in our divine feminine space, or we're too choked by society to open our voice and allow it to free. And we've lost that ancient tradition of knowledge being passed on from woman to maiden, from mother to daughter, from wise woman. We've lost that tradition of, even down to just 10 years ago, you'd see women sat on the garden fence talking over the garden fence. You don't even see that now because we're living so isolated, so singular. And at the end of the day, we as women are those cornerstones of society. And do you know what? These last 2 years have proved that.
Yeah.
Because who were the ones that were picking up the homeschooling, the working from home, the running the home? Who was the one picking up those? 90% of the time, it was the mother or the motherhood figure in the family. Grandmothers were stepping in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we would begin if we were lucky enough to be close enough. Um, and yeah, it's just so important for us as women to not just be sharing stories with our children and empowering them to have that narrative of storytelling, but
Mm-hmm.
also for us to tell our own stories, and communities where we have that safe space, a tribe, a village to
Where
to
we
allow
can
that voice.
to do it again. I think there's that, isn't there? That learning how to do it
Yeah,
again, learning how to confidently unlock your voice, which is how you're going to be helping women to unlock that voice, to be able to tell their stories. And you've started saying, you know what? Here's the first of 8 books. Here's the first of 4 journals. Here's
yeah,
how I'm going to get my voice out to the world. And you know, we've been working together for 6 months now, and this didn't exist 6 months ago, did it? It existed locked up in your head, in your heart, in your soul, and now it's out. And that makes me very proud of you, and so happy that you came to join me so that we could unlock this creative
yeah,
genius. I don't take any credit for it because it's all yours, and it's amazing. The story is amazing. I've put the link in the descriptor to Nixie's group. Get in our group, get on our email list, because you want to be updated about what's happening in her world. You can buy a book and a journal. Go and you don't have to buy them. Go and have a look at them on Amazon. But great stocking fillers for Christmas, great gifts for Halloween. But moreover, great opportunities to dip your toe back into the water with storytelling with your children, not to your children, with your
yeah.
children.
And that's the key. So many people don't have that skill, have never been shown that skill, have it's just assumed that they know how to read with their children. But we've lost that over the generations as more and more families, both parents are working, that those moments of you can still read a book, but it can be in that quick, you've got to get in a bath, you've got to read a story, you've got to be in bed, that's it, you're done. Because we just have lost the importance of understanding time, stories, and just finding pockets. It doesn't have to be hours, but finding pockets where we focus on that sharing of stories and recommunicating in the way of storytelling, because it's not just telling of stories as in this is a story tale. It's storytelling is how we share, how we feel, what's happened in our day. That is the core of humanity, and it's storytelling is how we our voices are
Heard. And
free.
it's a great opportunity for us to notice how our little ones are feeling, how other people are feeling, by prompting and by guiding them and taking them with you on the story, isn't it? This is why I wanted to bring Nixie on tonight. It's very different to what I normally do on a Tuesday night, very different indeed, but absolutely necessary, I think, to start getting this message out to the world, to start sharing the brave women that are stepping up and saying, look, it's about time we were heard, and you're one of them. So thank you for coming joining me tonight. I am going to zip off because I'm going into the 5-day challenge in like 34 minutes time.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's the 3rd time we've spoken today.
Yeah.
It's been a busy day, hasn't it? So go and enjoy your time with Little Moon and Luna the cat. Thank you for anybody that's been watching. Please get into Nixie's world. Honestly, there's big things coming here. I can feel it in the air. So please get into a network, because I think in 12 months' time, with several books published, this is going to be a very different story to tell. So thanks very much. I will see you all next week.
Thank you.
Same time, same place. Thank you, Nixie.
Thank you.